Hello everybody, my name is Tim Kutz. I'm joined with Nanditha Paradkar to talk about the Gallows Road Multimodal Study. We're going to be discussing different analyses that were done, including pedestrian, bicycle, safety, and vehicular analysis. The first up is the pedestrian assessment that was done, and we used a metric called pedestrian level of comfort. This is showing the northern segment of Gallows Road from Route 7 down to about the I-66 bridge. And you can see in the baseline scenario, which is the year 2045, no build, that comfort is really not that great along Gallows Road. You see a lot of red and a lot of yellow, which is showing that you have narrow sidewalks, not a lot of buffer between the sidewalk and the roadway. So not a really great place to walk currently and in the future if nothing's done. Alternatives 1 and 2, vehicle and transit options, improve upon that by widening the sidewalks and widening the buffers. You can see a level 2 comfort. And then alternative 3, which is the active transportation alternative, adds a dedicated cycle track to the west side, and that gives an additional buffer, which is why you see the green on the west side of Gallows Road. Moving on to the middle segment, pretty similar in that the baseline is not very comfortable, and there are even some areas where we have gaps, as you can see south of 495 approaching the southern segment. Alternative 1 improves upon it a little bit in certain areas. We're able to fill in the gaps where we can, but you really see a much greater improvement to pedestrian level of comfort in alternatives 2 and 3 because we're able to widen the sidewalks more and add additional buffer space, along with the added benefit of the dedicated bicycle facility in alternative 3. And then looking at the southern segment for pedestrian level of comfort, you can see that baseline is not changed too much in alternatives 1 and 2 because there's really limited right-of-way to work with. You see the greatest benefit in alternative 3, again, because we're adding that dedicated bicycle facility, we're taking away some of the travel lanes and reallocating that space for wider sidewalks and wider buffers. Looking a little closer at the pedestrian level of comfort crossing scores, you can see in the image here, looking at Gallows Road and Innovation Park Drive by the hospital, it's relatively comfortable to cross alongside Gallows Road on the side streets because they're low volume, usually low speed roadways. Crossing Gallows itself is not as comfortable because you have higher speed, 35 miles per hour along the entire corridor, and you're crossing more lanes, thereby having a longer exposure to traffic. And so starting with alternative 1 and 2, we can improve upon comfort by adding high visibility crosswalks and making it more visible for drivers to see that there's a crossing and a pedestrian potentially in that crossing. And then going a step beyond that, looking at the active transportation alternative, we can add pedestrian refuge islands, which you can kind of see in gray in the picture, where pedestrians can stop and wait, crossing halfway if they need to. Moving on to the bicycle assessment, we're looking at bicycle level of traffic stress, which is similar in a way to pedestrian level of comfort in that we're looking at different attributes of the roadway and determining how comfortable or how stressful it is for a cyclist to use that facility. So you're taking into account the speed of the roadway, the average daily traffic of the roadway, and whether or not there's a dedicated space for people to ride their bikes. So you can see in baseline, there is a shared use path on the east side currently, so people can use that. We could improve upon that with alternatives 1 and 2 by adding buffered bike lanes, and then alternative 3, as I mentioned in the previous slides, having a dedicated separated bicycle facility on the west side. Looking at the middle segment, you can see that there's much more improvements to bicycle level of traffic stress in alternative 2 and alternative 3, again, because you have the dedicated bicycle facility and more space with those two alternatives. And then finally, similar to pedestrian level of comfort for the southern segment, you see a vast improvement in the active transportation focus alternative. And again, that is because we would be taking away vehicle lanes and reallocating that space to bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So that's going to come with some delay, obviously, for vehicles, and we'll go over that in some slides coming up. Next, we're looking at the safety assessment of Gallows Road. In a nutshell, what we're doing is looking back at the 5-year crash history to see where crashes occurred, how many crashes occurred, and developing hotspot and at-risk locations based on both the frequency of crashes and the severity of crashes. So if there's a pedestrian involved, a bicyclist involved, or if there's a fatality or serious injury, those are going to get rolled into this hotspot analysis, as well as looking at higher frequency of crashes. And we're going to look at those hotspots and see if there's any at-risk locations. The at-risk locations would be similar in character to the hotspot locations, but maybe they haven't seen the high frequency or the high level of severity as the hotspot locations. And so the idea behind this is to really be proactive and see whether or not we can at least recommend some safety countermeasures, some safety improvements to help prevent these crashes from occurring in the future. Looking at the bar graph here, you can see that on the existing bar, which is green, we do have a fairly high number of injury crashes reported, and that would, we expect, continue to go up in the baseline condition. So if we did nothing in 2045, we would continue to see crashes going up and increasing. So what can we do to prevent that? We can look at safety improvements. So these are safety countermeasures that are approved by VDOT, and they have varying levels of success. You can see that protected left turns, for example, have a very high rate of success in sort of improving safety. High visibility crosswalks are another one. Pedestrian hybrid beacons, red light cameras, all these can be combined in various locations to hopefully improve safety. We see the biggest improvements in alternative 2, the transit alternative, as you can see indicated by the different countermeasures on the graphic here, prohibiting right turn on red, for example, implementing a leading pedestrian interval, an LPI, which sort of gives pedestrians a head start to cross the roadway, changing the left turn from a permitted to a protected left turn, implementing a road diet, and we would do that with the BRT lanes, the bus rapid transit lanes, narrowing the roadway in a sense, taking away some of the vehicular capacity. And so now looking at future baseline compared with the alternatives, you can see between the different crash types, injury, KSI, which is fatalities and serious injuries, bicycle-related crashes, and pedestrian-related crashes, all the alternatives reduce or are expected to reduce the amount of crashes in the future. And as I mentioned, alternative 2 seems to do the best job because we have more safety countermeasures proposed in that alternative. Moving on to the vehicle assessment, Nanditha Pradkar will discuss delay and some of the vehicle measures that were looked at.
Thanks, Tim. Before getting into the vehicle performance results, here are a couple of major intersection improvements considered for all the 3 alternatives. At Route 50, we are proposing an alternative access to Luther Jackson Middle School, considering difficulty to access the left turn lane at school during the morning peak hour for vehicles traveling westbound Route 50 to northbound Gallows. The new configuration would include westbound Route 50 off-ramp traffic going straight across Gallows and continue along the service road and connect with Gatehouse Road. At I-495, we are proposing adding another lane along the northbound on-ramp to channelize the westbound right turn and avoid conflict between eastbound left and westbound right turns. We are proposing signalizing Hemlock Drive and Aston Street intersections in the southern segment. Next slide, please. These next few graphics will show the delays experienced by vehicles at intersections within all 3 segments, comparing the alternatives, starting with northern segment here. The top bars show the PM delays and the bottom bars show AM results for future baseline and alternatives. Green indicating lowest delays between 0 to 20 seconds, and red showing delays greater than 80 seconds. For all the alternatives in general, PM shows worse conditions compared to AM with higher volumes. Both alternatives 2 and 3 have lower demand to use Gallows with reduced capacity to accommodate transit lanes and bicycle facility, which results in some traffic dispersing to nearby roads and freeways. Route 7 intersection would operate with high delays under all alternatives and with higher delays under alternative 2, with the proposed Q-jump lane to accommodate BRT. And the other intersections show moderate delays except for alternative 2. With only one car lane, there are higher delays from Idlewood Road to Cottage Street during the AM peak, and at Old Courthouse Road, Mary Oaks Lane, and Idlewood Road during the PM peak for alternative 3. For the middle segment, alternative 1 performs similar to baseline conditions with improved delays at Route 50 and I-495 with the improvements I just went over. In alternative 2, adding a median bus lane and combining this with signal timing adjustments to give pedestrians more time to cross as the bus stations are in the center results in delays worsening. And at I-495, the signal preemption needed for buses to enter and leave the bus lane leads to higher delays. Alternative 3, removing car lane to accommodate the cycle track on the west side of Gallows Road causes higher delays in the southbound direction during the PM peak hour due to congestion at Route 29 and Arlington Boulevard, which extends to upstream intersections. Next segment. For the southern segment at Hemlock Drive and Aston Street intersections, like I mentioned, we are proposing to add signals to reduce delays for drivers. But during the AM peak hour, congestion approaching I-495 would spill back and cause high delays at Aston Street with the vehicle alternative 1. Under all alternatives, Hummer Road and Little River Turnpike intersections experience high delays due to high volumes. Under alternative 3, with reduced lanes to accommodate the cycle track, results in some queuing extending to Gallows Road and Annandale Road intersection. Due to this bottleneck, delays to the north at Aston Street would be lower. With alternative 2, the delays would be lowest due to lower demand volumes and more lanes compared to alternative 3. In addition to congestion at I-495 southbound direction, with traffic not being able to get to this segment. Next slide, please. These next few graphics show impact to travel time by segment for all 3 alternatives compared to future baseline. The green color-coded numbers show decrease in travel times, and red shows increase in travel time compared to the baseline conditions. Generally, longer travel times occur heading northbound during the AM peak period and southbound during the PM peak period based on commuting patterns. Due to greater overall PM peak period volume, the travel times are longer during the PM peak period. Future baseline and vehicle-focused alternative 1 have similar travel times. With transit alternative 2, the through lane reduction to accommodate the bus lane results in about additional 3 minutes delay for northbound during the AM peak period and 4.5 minutes southbound during the PM peak period. Alternative 3 would have similar travel times to baseline, except for the southbound during the PM peak period. This is mostly due to the congestion to the south, queuing back into this segment, adding about 2.5 minutes to travel time. Next slide, please. Alternative 1 travel times remain the same compared to baseline conditions. With alternative 2, the increased intersection delay to accommodate the median bus lane operations result in travel time increases of about 2 to 4 minutes, except for the off-peak southbound direction during the AM peak hour. For alternative 3, the AM peak hour travel time would be about the same in the southbound direction, but the PM peak hour travel time could increase by about 10 minutes due to intersection delays caused by pedestrian crossing signal improvements. And there is less traffic diversion to nearby roads compared to alternative 2. Next slide, please. Future baseline and alternative 1 have similar travel times within the southern segment. With alternative 2, AM peak period travel times are reduced by about 2 minutes due to lower demand. During the PM peak period, northbound travel time would be similar to alternative 1, but southbound travel time would improve by about 4 minutes. Again, primarily due to the bottleneck at I-495 that would limit vehicles entering the southern segment. Alternative 3 would have marginal improvement in travel times of about 30 seconds to 1 minute compared to baseline during the AM peak period. And PM peak period travel time would be about the same northbound, but southbound would improve by about 2 minutes. Next slide, please. This is to show how the alternatives perform, trying to achieve each of the goals established for this study. If you can go to the next slide. One shows the lowest rating and three being the highest rating under each category. Alternative 1 provides the most vehicle access for local trips and connectivity to the regional transportation network. Alternative 2 provides the most equitable mobility options and access to reliable and convenient transit service. Alternative 3 provides the most comfortable and accessible active transportation network and has the most environmental benefit. While choosing a preferred concept, it could be a combination of these alternatives where one segment has a preference for one alternative over the other based on the feedback we receive from the community. That ends our overview of the alternatives.